Tonight we're going to move right into the gospel reading tonight. Now, tonight's gospel comes out of the 17th chapter of Luke, verses 5 to 10. The gospel has a nice, simple little message, but it is a very challenging message. And the simple but challenging message of the gospel reading tonight is found in the very first verse of tonight's gospel reading. So verse 5 of the 17th chapter of Luke. Let's take a look at it. So verse 5, 17th chapter of Luke says this: "The apostles said to the Lord, 'Increase our faith.'" Now, what I want you to do is just feast your eyes on that verse right there, verse 5, 17th chapter of Luke. Do you see anything wrong with that verse? Now, take a good look at it. Do you see anything wrong with it? There's definitely something wrong with it. Now, I'll give you a little hint. It is not grammatical. I took that verse 5, 17th chapter of Luke, I took it to two English teachers. And I said to them, I know English has a lot of rules, grammatical construction. Take a look at this verse 5, 17th chapter of Luke, and tell me if you see anything wrong with it grammatically. And independently of each other, both of these English teachers said to me, though, that verse, that sentence does not violate any laws of English. So when it comes to grammatical construction, that's a good verse, English-wise, grammatical construction, no problem there. However, there's still something wrong with that verse, despite the fact the English teacher says grammatically it's okay. What's wrong with that verse? Take a look at it. Well, read it to yourself. "The apostles said to the Lord, 'Increase our faith.'" What's wrong with it? Well, I'll tell you what it is. The apostles are asking the Lord, they're asking Jesus to do something that is not the responsibility of Jesus. They're saying, "Jesus, increase our faith." And Jesus is going to tell them what? Look, if you want your faith increased, it's up to you. If you want a greater understanding of your faith, it's up to you. If you want a mastery of your Catholic faith, it is up to you. You got to work on studying your faith, learning your faith, trying to understand what it means in the real presence of Christ. All those ideas of Catholic faith, it's up to you to understand. It's not up to Jesus. I just can't wake up in the morning and say, "Jesus, allow me to have a greater understanding of my Catholic faith, increase my faith." Jesus is going to say, "No, wait. It's not my responsibility, it's yours." The Pew Research people had a very interesting survey I read a couple years ago. They made a survey of all the major religions of the world, Roman Catholicism naturally being one. And what they were surveying is they wanted to see how well people know the faith they belong to. And Roman Catholicism was now near the bottom of the survey. It said that out of Roman Catholics, only 27% of Roman Catholics understand their faith. That would mean 73% don't. Now, was their research flawed? Is it erroneous? Ask yourself that question. Do you know your faith? Do you know your faith as well as you should? Do you understand the tenets of your faith? What I find amazing is this. Back in 1943, Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand, he wanted to climb to the very top of Mount Everest. He wanted to be the first human being in recorded history, at least known from human civilization, to get to the top of Mount Everest, a height of 29,095 feet. So they put together an expedition, and they started for the top of Mount Everest, 1943. They got about 2/3 of the way up the mountain, but they just couldn't continue, so they had to give up the goal of getting to the top and make a retreat and descend the mountain. 10 years went by, and in 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary said, "I'm going to make another assault on Mount Everest. And this time, I absolutely am positive I will get to the top of Mount Everest." He kept bragging about the fact that on the second attempt, he'll get to the top of Mount Everest. No problem. No problem at all. I will be successful. Now, a newspaper reporter was interviewing Sir Edmund Hillary and asking the question, the first time you failed, 1943, now 1953, you are claiming that you're going to make it to the top. You're guaranteed travel all the way to the top of the mountain. What makes you so sure you can get to the top of the mountain this time? And he gave a very interesting answer, and this was his answer. He said, "In 10 years, Mount Everest has not grown." But in 10 years, I have grown. And that'll be all the difference. I have matured, I have researched, I have an understanding now what it takes to get to the top of Mount Everest. It has remained the same size, but I have grown. I'll get to the top. Growth is so important in life. You know, I've talked to a lot of folks in all these years as a priest, and a lot of folks who got divorced. When I have someone come to my office and they're either going through a divorce or recently divorced, and we'll have a little conversation if time allows, and their openness to some of the questions I might ask is there. And I will eventually ask the question, especially I feel there's a nice comfort zone between us to ask the question. And sometimes I'll ask the question, you know, you got divorced. Can you tell me what led you to getting that divorce? Why did you ask for the divorce? And every so often, and it's really something that's come up more than I ever thought of, I have received an answer that I never thought I would receive. I would always look for those pat answers, the ones you figure when you ask someone who's divorced, they're going to say, because my partner was unfaithful, this happened, they weren't communicating to me, they were all those answers. But every so often, I get this as an answer. I divorced my spouse because my spouse stopped growing with me. What an interesting answer. They stopped growing with me. We got married and we were growing and growing together. I start excelling in my career, and the other person was as well, and we're growing as human beings. We're growing as a man, as a woman, a husband, and a wife. We're growing. But my spouse, somewhere along the line, stopped growing with me. And I would have to look back and say, are you coming? Are you coming? Then they just got tired. If you're not going to grow with me, then what's the sense of staying together? That's what I've received in an answer every so often, but I always find that answer very interesting. It's one, since I'm not married, that I would never have given or would never have thought someone would get divorced because their spouse stopped growing with them. Now, look at that sentence, that verse 5. That is very, very powerful. And there is something clearly wrong with it. The apostles said to the Lord, increase our faith. And Jesus is saying, it's not my responsibility to increase your faith. To get a greater understanding of your faith, that's up to you. To understand the tenets of Roman Catholic faith, that's up to you. To be able to talk about your faith to those who aren't Catholics, as you are, that's up to you. That's a powerful little verse. I just want to leave you with that, because everyone here, we're all in a different position when it comes to our faith. And I'm not bragging about knowing the faith, because I don't know it that well. And hey, look, I spent a lot of years in school. I should know something. So if I not had studied to be a priest, and I'm just a layman and a married fella and just working 40 hours a week and with a family, would I have taken the time to know my faith? I don't know. I really can't say. All I know is that if I wanted to learn my faith, that would have been up to God, Jesus, the Lord. No. Would have been up to me. Think about verse 5, 17th chapter of Luke. It's a very powerful little verse. It's a simple verse. It's a challenging verse. Lord, increase my faith. And Jesus says no. To know your faith, your Roman Catholicism, if we have any folks who are Protestants here tonight, welcome. But to know your Protestant faith, your Catholic faith, that is totally up to you.